So, hello, Stephen. It's
Well, Jeanette, how's it going?
very good, thanks. It's really lovely to have you here on with us today. I'm delighted that you've come on board. To everybody listening, this is Stephen Dunne, and Stephen Dunne owns Universal Acupuncture. Universal Acupuncture is um, based in Clane, okay, and they work on holistic therapy, so things like acupuncture and cranial sacral therapy and such like. And you'll hear more from Stephen there in a second. So Stephen is going to be doing a talk at our conference, and the conference is going to be on March the 22nd. It's Friday next week. Okay, so we're 7 days away from our conference, and our conference is all about neurodiversity in education. So we're looking at every type of brain and making sure that it is a welcome environment. And we're really looking at the holistic point of view from the care and education of the kids. So not just the education side of things, but how can we look after them outside of education so that we have an all-rounded, well-being, health and well-being, good health and well-being for the kids that we're looking after and the young people we're looking after. So, Stephen, you're very welcome here today. Tell me a
Thanks,
little bit
Jeanette.
about yourself.
Well, let me see. I'm 20 years in the health and wellness field. A good number of those qualified as acupuncture. Before that, I studied many other forms of therapy, including kinesiology, acupressure, and the kudos for pronouncing it correctly, craniosacral therapy.
Thank you.
Amongst others, indeed. And basically, I just what I suppose very quickly my origin story was that I had an issue myself with a back problem many years ago, and conventional therapy and indeed conventional wisdom wasn't something that worked. And I went from going to chiropractors, physios, to pain management specialists, and the result was over about a 9 month period, my back kept getting worse and worse to the extent where quite literally nothing worked. And then I found about 9 months into the experience, I found acupuncture and holistic medicine and a more holistic approach. And it was with a gentleman in Dublin had me sorted with a combination of what I do today, which is acupuncture and a variety of different other holistic therapies, had me sorted in approximately 8 weeks after 8 months of struggle and strife, and to the extent, as I always say, not only did I go from lying on the floor, being in a very non-functional state, I was able to get on a plane to Florida and do it everything that Florida had to offer without any pain, without any issue whatsoever. So that fundamentally changed the course of my life. That has me sort of sitting in front of you here today.
And so that's why you decided then to go into acupuncture yourself.
Indeed, yeah. When I say it sort of changed the course of my life. I simply just began doing courses 20 odd years ago. I picked up one course, another course, and it literally 20. Actually, I say 20 years. It's closer to 25 now. Basically, started helping people in the evenings when I'd come home from whatever job I was at in a part-time capacity, and 7, 8 years ago now, I opened my first full time practice and never looked back. So happily.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, I'm going to ask you why you decided that you were going to speak at this conference. But before I do, I'm going to tell you why I asked you to come and speak at the conference.
Sure.
For the listeners here, Stephen actually does work with me, and I would be one of his clients. Stephen works not just with me, but he works with some of my family and friends as well. And many of us, if not all of us, who go to Stephen actually have neurodivergent conditions, and whether he is or is not aware of it, he does excellent work with them all, which is one of the reasons why I asked him to come along, because the holistic side of things, that we're not just looking straight for medication, because it's not about fixing the child, it's about helping somebody to become their full selves, their whole selves. So that's kind of why I have asked Stephen to come along and talk at the conference. But from your perspective, Stephen, why did you say yes when I asked you?
Oh my gosh, try to follow that, as they say. I could let me see. To be perfectly honest with you, Jeanette, I was very complimented when you asked me to speak at the conference. Number one, and I do thank you for the invite. But from my own point of view, I was excited for the opportunity to spread the good word, so to speak, as it were, of acupuncture, and it presented an exciting opportunity really to expose more people to like acupuncture and different forms of thinking or different approaches. Because one of the things I'm often got saying is a different approach to that same problem, and that's fundamental of literally half my life. If I didn't look at my problem in a different way or from a different perspective, I don't know if I'd still be sitting here today talking to you, quite frankly. So I have outside of fixing people and earning a few bob like us all, I have a very keen need, want, and desire to be able to introduce other people to different ways and different forms of thinking, different forms of approach, and different ways to tackle problems they have in their lives. So, in answer to your question, it presented for me an opportunity to get in front of people that are very much in a position to be looking at those sorts of options or possibilities. So, thank you
Yeah.
for that.
You're very welcome. And it's options and possibilities that they often don't think about or might not realize are actually available to them. It's certainly something that I never thought was available to me. And medication was offered, counseling therapies were offered, and that doesn't always help when you struggle with things like sleep and stress and reactivity. So I personally have found, acupuncture and the cranial sacral therapy that you do has been very, very beneficial. So I would be eager to spread the word also. I think it's like that sometimes when we find something that works, we want to really advocate for it. And it's the same for the kids that we work with and the young people that we work with. We want to advocate for them because they're amazing human beings and they've taught us so much. Okay, so give us a little sneaky look into what your talk is going to be about. Don't give too much away now, just a little sneak.
Well, am I allowed to give the title away?
Yes, you can give the
Right, right.
title has been publicized for several months now, so yes,
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
fair enough. That's fair enough. But the title is where where the ancient meets the modern, acupuncture's role in neurodiverse care, right? And the reason I'd answer that Jen for you with naming the title is simply put, our modern view or understanding of anything remotely referred to as modern medicine would go back approximately 2, 3, 400 years, maybe 500, depending on who you're talking to and in what context. Traditional Chinese medicine, which is the cornerstone, and acupuncture is the cornerstone of that medical system, has existed for over 2,000 years. Right. So, a principle of my talk next week is going to be introducing people, number one, to acupuncture and the concept of it, and number two, to introduce the notion that there are literally thousands of years of solutions, treatments, and options that are there and exist in combination and in unison with the more modern world that we're all familiar with from a modern medicine point of view. So it really is just about introducing people to something that is in the past and is very much present and exists with us all into the future, and combining that with perhaps something they already know. Bottom line, giving people more options, giving people more understanding of where they can go with a particular problem they're perceiving that they need to get over.
And is that essentially what you want people to take away then from your talk on the day, that they know that they have options? Or is there anything else you want them to take away?
Yeah, a key, like one of the things we're going to look at as well is some very practical case studies. So what I would hope that people would take away from the talk would be one, in some cases, perhaps an introduction to that strange thing with the needles that their uncles, dog walkers, nephews, niece had done. But then number two, armed with literally some viable information about, look, this may be an option for that nieces, nephews, dog walkers, aunt, or whatever, in that sense. So if they've learned a little bit about it, number one, and then number two, if perhaps they may take an action. For example, I may take an action with an acupuncturist anywhere in the country, of which there are number 700. I had a meeting this morning actually, and there's approximately 700 trained acupuncturists in the country at the moment.
Wow. Okay, well, that's so there's plenty of options for them, which is always it's always nice to know about different things that we can try that we might not have tried before. And we know well that what works well for one might not work well for another, but it's about having those choices. And I think that it's really important that people do have those choices and that they are aware that there are those options there available to them. So
Oh, exactly,
I
exactly.
can imagine that people will have questions for you on the day. So
Mhm.
if are you going to be available on the day? How long will you be available for? And are you happy for people to approach you to ask questions?
Absolutely. I'll be there from the start of the day through to my own talk, and I'll certainly be available after the talk for the rest of the day. Myself and a colleague of mine, we will have one of the tables. I'm delighted to say there on the day as well. So I'm certainly available morning, noon, and night of the evening for any questions anybody might have. Absolutely.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I can imagine you'll be very busy on the day with people
Don't be so.
asking you questions. So
Delighted to be
finally,
able to ask.
I know you're very busy and you have a client coming into you shortly, so I'll just get the last little bit of information out of you. How can people get in touch with you if they want more information from you, if they want to make an appointment with you? How can they get in touch?
Well, absolutely. My website is universalacupuncture.ie. I can be reached as Stephen at universalacupuncture.ie either. Or for bookings, 045 914 305. That's 045 914 305. And our offices are based in Clyde, County Kildare.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. It's been
No problem.
fantastic talking to you. I'm really looking forward to listening and hearing and listening. It's almost the same thing, but not quite. I'm looking forward to your talk next week and seeing what you have to offer at your stand there as well. And people will be able to come over to your stand and they'll be able to talk to you directly there as well, won't they?
Oh, yes, yeah. No, we're delighted to
Amazing.
answer any questions anybody has.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Stephen. It's been a pleasure, as always. And we will talk to you very, very soon.
That's great stuff. Jeanette, many thanks for the invite and looking forward to next week.
Thank you.